Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Talking Pop Culture with Jake D. And we are here tonight to review episode 9 of season 5 of The Expanse. And joining us, as always, for these reviews, Matt from Foulball Productions. How are you this evening, Matt?
Hello, good sir. How are you doing?
I am doing well, man. Your remote studio looks good.
I am remote. I am on location in Austin, Texas. So that's why I've got a handheld mic and a terrible camera. And I hope that the bandwidth of this Airbnb will maintain myself during this stream. But I am here, and I am willing to talk some Expanse with you and the lovely chat. Hail chat.
And we got some great barbecue in your belly last night, too. So that was good stuff.
We sure did. We sure did.
Draco Argenteus, Mythir, how are you this evening, sir?
Doing excellent, sir. Just finishing up here and ready to discuss some more excellent entertainment this evening. And excellent to share the panel with you and Matt. Wonderful to be here, and a chat that is always on target.
You betcha. Let's see who we got with us to get kicked off. Duct Tape, hail, sir. Glad to have you. Tracy, glad that you made it. The Brigadier General himself, Elvis, by God, good to have you here, sir. Mary G, hail. Dan, 2584, good to see you. Good to see you. And our good buddy Alex, who forgives us for not being able to pronounce his name. Light a man, good evening. Glad to have you here. And of course, I am generally in the Austin, Texas area, and Matt is here temporarily taking a look around. Sentient Dildo. Oh, yeah. All righty. I think that gets to about everybody who has said hello.
Just another red shirt's here as well.
Oh, just another red shirt. Hail, sir. Mike DiCarlo, good to have you. All right. So let's get started. This was the penultimate episode of the season, and a hell of a lot happened tonight. So we got a lot of good action on Earth, and I want to start there with Amos and the crew arriving at basically like a Martha's Vineyard type location. So give me just your first thoughts to that overall storyline that we saw there with Amos, Peaches, Eric, and the crew, Matt.
Well, it's kind of hard for me to just talk about that because unfortunately, I think we got a heavy dose of intersectional feminism in this episode. And I thought a big part of it was Peaches' character as well. Her being the compassionate voice of reason to Amos's, we don't have. It's hard for me to just talk about that. You know what I mean? Like the whole episode, I have like so many thoughts about, and it's just like, okay, I'll focus just on that. I thought like they gave Peaches like the moral high ground for some reason. They gave her like that moment to be like all like, I'll be the good person. Then she goes all moral, right? One more time with that brigade of whatever they call it, those security guards.
Yeah.
And that ends up killing like 10 people. So I don't know if they were trying to go for her like that endless compassion is not the way to go, or that's just how it goes. A lot of that action kind of felt like it was unnecessary. It was just there to kind of keep the excitement up. But I don't know. A lot of this episode really didn't ring true to me. A lot of this, I have actually a fair amount of issues with what we watched tonight. So I won't get into too much of it, but I'll stay there for now.
All right, Draco, your initial reactions to that part of the story from tonight?
Well, I was interested in it. I was invested, and I cared about what was going on. I think one of the things that you mentioned it yourself, Matt, her point of view is not necessarily justified by the events that outcome. When that one person says to her, that's not, when Eric says to her something about this is how bad an idea it is to be compassionate, they lose a lot of people. Just like you said, before getting off the ground. So she isn't necessarily right, but she is willing to put herself in the middle of it. Whereas the other two guys, I mean, this is what is set up. This has been set up for some time. These other two guys, they're fully in the idea of the churn. Whoever we lose along the way, they fall.
Yeah, no, we do lose a lot of people along the way. That is for sure. So, my take on that, Matt, I'm gonna counterpoint your perception of that part of the storyline, because I'm more in agreement with the chat on this for what we were seeing. So you get I think you've got Peaches is looking for redemption, and one of the reasons why I'm convinced that that's why she was behaving the way that she was is because Eric asks her, where Timmy picked her up, right? And her response is, serving a life sentence for multiple homicides. So, this is on her mind. And in the dialogue that we get from her, she's really rebelling against the idea that they're going to kill more people, right? And I'm going to point back to the Drinker Recommends in his video that he put out a couple weeks ago about this show. One of the things that he highlighted that I think is dead on point for what we saw tonight in this piece of the storyline is he talked about how a lot of the choices that are laid out for us for the adult audience are morally gray and not all of them can be seen as right or wrong necessarily. So Peaches goes on her little moral trip based on her guilt from what she's done, right? Amos, I think Elvis hit it right on. We see time after time, Amos is looking for somebody else to be his moral compass rather than making the decisions himself. And every one of us watching it says this is a bad idea, because just like they told us those fuckers are going to come back, and they end up killing everybody they brought with them from Baltimore, with the exception of Eric, right?
Which is just so, I mean, that's so sloppy. Like, okay, I accept that as the way the story was written. But like, if Eric doesn't try to kill Peaches when they get to the Luna, I'm going to be really upset, because I can't understand like that decision making. And it was so obvious it was the wrong thing to do. And then like it almost couldn't have gone worse. I mean, it was like, had they taken the ship is the only way that could have gone worse. I mean, it was like so many people died that were needlessly died. They had all those cops outgunned. They basically, those cops said that it was a shakedown. Essentially, they basically admitted what they were there for, which was to, we're the only. So what was the point? Why wouldn't you at least detain them? You just let him go because she doesn't enough killing. Is like, what are you talking about? We're all surviving. And like, why did Amos and Eric let her do that? I thought that was so stupid. I was like, no, don't shoot them. Fucking shoot them right now. That you care about saving these people. This is the only way you can save them, is to take care of the only threat right now. I don't know. It didn't ring true to me. And the thing that Riot really stuck out to me was because it was on the back of what had just happened on Luna with Avasarala. And like her, like the new government wanting to up the war and attack. And then the only people that walked out of that room, it was 3 women and 1 man. And I was like, you're doing it. The Expanse is doing it. They're getting intersectional on us. And then the next scene is Peaches being like, hey, have compassion for these people. And Amos being like, yeah, okay, I guess you're right. I was just like, no, not my show. Not the Expanse. No.
I definitely get where you're coming from. I do. I get where you're coming from. I think that you may be overreacting, because we are, as a group, sometimes jumping at ghosts. I mean, for real, I do.
I know. Oh, I think you're right about that. I don't know that that's applicable here, but also like, you wouldn't know it. You can't always see where you're biased. So
yeah, no,
you don't know until after the whole thing's played out. You are basically, all of us are like whipped dogs on this particular issue. The intersectionality is everywhere. The identity politics are everywhere. But the thing is that, is it acceptable? Well, in that scene where they walk out, yes, 3 women and 1 man walk out. I don't know if that's necessarily atypical. I do think, though, that Amos has always been the whipping boy for the women in his life that tell him this. I mean, this is solid intersectionalism, and it's been there since the beginning. But this is also part of Amos' nature. He understands that he's in this for the survival of it. And I also, Matt, I want to say I am on your side, at least as far as what happened when those cops came up and did the shakedown on the guys. There should have been some control rather than just to let them walk off. That doesn't make logical story-wise sense. It doesn't make, why would you allow that to happen? Why would you allow these uncontrolled numbers? Because what they did, they had them outnumbered at the beginning, and then those people went out and brought back help and wiped out everybody who was on the fringes of their defense. That is a logical fall right there. But they wrote it that way. I'm not entirely certain that I want to hit them too hard for it. But you're all right.
Yeah. Well, here's what I'm going to propose to you guys. And we need to take this in context with the other piece that you just brought up, Matt. And I think that you need to look at them together, because what we saw and what we experienced between Amos's group on Earth versus the UN and the government on Luna, they took 2 different approaches to, in some ways, a similar problem. Okay. And we saw those 2 responses play out differently with different consequences for the people who made the decisions. So Amos and Peaches, they make the decision to let these guys go because they had neutralized the immediate threat, right? So these guys are not going to try to gun them down outside the house. The immediate threat had been neutralized. They let them go. What was the result of that? Well, shit hit the fan and almost everybody fucking died before they got off Earth, right? Now, the flip side of that, and I think it was a very intentional juxtaposition of the story, what we've got going on with the UN is they went ahead and they did strike. Okay. And they did cause perhaps needless deaths.
No, look,
right.
It's
so
not the morals of
balance.
that. I totally think the morals of what like Avasarala was standing up for was A, in line with her character, and B, probably the correct thing to do. I respected it and I liked it, but it just felt so predictable, like to that type of storytelling, not what we've seen in the Expanse up until this point, but just that kind of like, well, all the women here get it, but the evil men, military people, they don't. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. Like all 3 women make the big show of walking out, or 4, including Avasarala, and the one guy's like, yeah, what they said. And then like the woman comes to
You don't even know
like,
what that guy, don't start putting words in his mouth. He just follows with the rest of them because he actually does say something. No, I'm not going to put words in his mouth either because I'm not entirely certain who says that. Something
He
about
said, we're better.
He said,
than this.
yeah,
we're better than this. Was that a guy? Because
Yes.
if that is, then he actually says something. He says something out loud, and he's challenging their authority. Not
no,
to
he
mention,
said it to them. He said it to the new prime minister, not to the women.
yes, exactly. He said it to the new prime minister. He actually speaks out, and he tells them why we're leaving. We're better than this.
He's the last one to say it, though. It really didn't look good to me at all, man. Like, you know, we could pick it apart. I know we all want to believe
He says it out loud. He actually says the
I know
thing.
he says it. I know. No, I understand, but to me, that's almost tokenism. It's like, well, we can't be all women, so let's throw a guy in there so that it doesn't look that bad. I'm telling you, this is what I saw, and I was just like, oh, you got to be kidding me, because it was back-to-back scenes, you know, and it's like the way this show has been going, just the past few episodes, where it's focusing so heavily on some of the female characters. I mean, Holden isn't even in this show this season. Almost the past like 4 episodes, he's basically a non-factor. You know, I mean, he had like one line tonight. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know.
Have one line?
one or two, maybe when he's there with both.
He had some lines, but the thing is that he's been pushed out of this completely. Matter of fact, Monica has more to say on the Rocinante. Monica and Bull. Hell, Bull outranks him.
And so I don't know, like it's just that the evidence is starting to stack up. You know, it's clearly like a show that's sympathetic to different portrayals and stuff. And you know, as we've covered, we've never had a problem with any of that. I don't have a problem with any of that. I think it's great. But now this kind of feels like in line with the other stuff that we see out of Hollywood a lot. And I don't know, I can't shake it. Like it rang very, very falsely to me as I watched it.
Yeah. I mean, don't misunderstand. I get where you're coming from, and I understand why you had that reaction. I guess when I'm seeing it as in one situation, the woman made the wrong decision. In the other situation, the woman made the right decision. So when you've got those two situations juxtaposed, I don't think that's woke messaging.
I don't know. It rang like that way to me. You know, I mean, maybe,
and that
like
brings up something too. We each have 3 different opinions about this. We each see it differently.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Mike saying that. Yeah, I didn't. I thought that was cool. It's like they're focusing on the women almost exclusively. You know, it's like, I guess we got Amos's story, and Amos has always kind of needed like a leader. So him like taking Peach's lead is not really that big of a deal. I just didn't like it on the heel. It was just kind of was giving women like in this show, like so much of like the reins of the storytelling. And I was like, I mean, the women in this show have always been powerful and interesting, but it almost feels like they're running it now, which is kind of like intersectionalism. And it's just like, okay, I mean, it's great that they're here. They're some of my favorite characters, Avasarala and Drummer and all that, but like, where's Holden in all this? You know, like what, like, I don't know. I'm just starting to feel like we're getting like, it just feels like it's kind of the same old story, you know, that we see in almost all entertainment now.
Yep. I get where you're coming from. And if everything keeps tracking that way, and our Holdens and our Bulls and our one more episode of Alex don't have more of a prominent role as we end this and go into season 6, I'll definitely get on board with where you're coming from.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's doomed. I'm just saying, like, you know, with what my criticisms of like a few episodes ago, where it was like, you know, Naomi's like, that all the feelings in spaceships where it didn't go anywhere, you know what I mean? And now it's like, and then like last episode was all about Naomi, which is great. I mean, it was, but now it's like, it's almost like it's okay. Like almost the face of the show is changing over the past 3 episodes. I'm like, where is this going? What's going on here? I like Tracy's comment about this. I'm curious about this.
The changes that bother her, the bigger changes, like the UN storyline being altered dramatically, Fred being dead, and there not being a Martian leader involved.
I don't want to talk over anyone. I just want to say this quick. I might get, I'm on.
Nope. I think he was trying to tell us that he might have to step out unexpectedly.
Yeah, I think so. hey, Sencha Dildo. He says, I think you're looking for wokeness where there is none or very little. Look, none of us want to believe anything that can be corrupted. You know, every time it's happened, we all had a bit of cognitive dissonance for a while. You know, when it happened to Game of Thrones, I mean, it was like, it took us a while to catch on that it had been kind of, you know, turned into mush. I mean, people loved The Force Awakens when it came out. They loved it. It was a huge hit. We're more mature now. And I just think when you see it, you have to just be honest, and you gotta feel what you feel and express it as it comes. Now, I'm not saying that this means anything. I'm just saying this is the first time I really felt like I was getting an intersectional feminist lecture from this show since it started. And I was shocked to see it because it was ham-handed, because it was in the war room. Pretty much only the women walked out, which I was like, really? And then Peach, on the next scene, Peach is doing it, focusing so much on Drummer, focusing so much on Naomi. I'm like, this feels different. This feels like a different show right now.
Okay, no, that's fair. I mean, I definitely see where you're coming from, and you're making fair points. So I don't think that you're wrong to say there's been more focus on the women this season. Don't disagree at all. Okay, uh, but I also think that mainly the sidelining of Holden is kind of the biggest piece where it's like, where's he been?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What is up with Holden? We haven't seen shit from him.
Nothing.
And in fairness, Gary mentioned last week on the Inquisition that there's been a couple of major storylines that just were not present from the books, which it dials right back in with what Tracy said earlier, where the UN is radically different from what we saw before, and Mars is just completely absent. And for me, it and she says also that he is sidelined in the book as well. So the biggest thing I've felt like I'm missing in this season is Mars, honestly. Mars in season 4 felt like a character in and of itself to an extent, right? So we saw the collapse of Mars. We watched, Alex walking around and looking at all the shops that were closed and shut down, and the fact that the entire planet was just leaving and collapsing, right? And like the planet itself was almost like a character. And we got introduced to a lot of the big players who were getting rid of all the Martian equipment that we now know is being purchased by Marco, right?
Yeah.
And so the planet itself was a big part of the show to me. And that's been missing this season for me. That's the only major thing where it's like, where the fuck is Mars?
Yeah, dude. And that, I was 100% wrong because I felt like, in the beginning of the season, you had Bobby had that giant stockpile of all those Martian weapons, and I'm like, oh, I bet she goes and uses them against the Bell, against Marco. Like I was waiting for that, and that doesn't look like that could possibly happen. We have one episode left. She's nowhere near that arsenal. And you're right. Like the Martian degradation in the past season, I thought was fascinating. I loved their transformation. I love that like organized crime took off, that the vision of Mars was no longer cohesive, that they just changed who they were because of the opening of the ring gates. And you're right. They're completely absent from this storyline. And in ways that it's odd. Like, Avasarala says, we can't trust Mars, but like she's dealt with people she hasn't trusted in the past.
Plenty of times.
And she's figured out how to flush out rats. So it's weird that she's just not dealing with it whatsoever. Like, I don't know what it is, but a lot of the storylines just feel so small and self-contained. All of them, like Amos's story, like they're still just getting off the planet. It's okay, but it's not nothing. It doesn't impact anything greater. They just have to leave eventually. Naomi's, I don't know, they all just feel limited. Even Avasarala, like what she's doing, it still just feels like in this tiny little corner. It doesn't feel like it's got that great cross section that the show normally has. It doesn't feel as tightly woven as I feel the show generally represents. So I don't know. Like I thought the season started off so unbelievably strong, and I was set to have like the best season of television maybe ever. But since episode 7, something's kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, and I can't quite shake it. And this episode didn't do a lot to alleviate that for me.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely see where you're coming from, and you are definitely not something that people in our sphere sometimes get accused of is angry clicks, right, or having an inauthentic reaction to what we're seeing. And what's coming out of you is a completely authentic reaction to this episode in the past, probably about 3 episodes, really. And I want to make clear that, like, dude, I feel you, and I understand completely where you're coming from. And this is, make no mistake, to the chat and anybody watching on the replay, Matt's having a very genuine reaction here, and it's well grounded in recent TV and movie history. So, I want to make it very clear that, like, dude, I feel where you're coming from. I'm not in the same place as you right now, but I understand it.
Right, yeah. And well, it's we see it happen time and again. And I really do hope that I'm just, seeing ghosts, as you said, jumping at ghosts. That would be great. But generally these things come in like piece by piece. So I don't know.
Keep jumping, man, because as I mentioned, stay frosty. This stuff is there. It has been there since the beginning. You are not wrong. Jake said everything that was important about this. We know you have a right to feel these things because they are real. They're there. Keep saying them.
Yeah, and I am particularly moving slightly ahead into a little bit of thinking ahead type territory. So we've got one episode left in season 5 next week, and we still don't know how Alex is going to exit this show. But next week is his last episode with us.
That's a good point.
So
we don't even know if it was written into because of when the story came out about Alex and when they were done with various stages of production.
I see Duct Tape's question. If I watched this 4 years ago, would I still feel the same? In 2016? Probably. I don't know that I would be. I think something would feel wrong inside of me. It's kind of like what I was going through when I was watching Game of Thrones, and I couldn't put my finger on it. It wasn't explicit, but something was off, and I just could feel it like bouncing around my chest. So I think if this was a few years ago and I didn't have the luxury of, Nerdrotic, Gary and Doomcock and Mahler and all these people who like really get into the nuts and bolts and how much more present the mechanics of woke storytelling is, I think I might not be able to put my finger on it so precisely, but I do feel like I would feel the same because I pretty much hated The Force Awakens for the second it started, and I was in the theater watching it. So it's, you can't fuck with the truth, as the late great Patrice O'Neill said. And something about this, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm jumping at ghosts. I really do, but I got to say it if I see it, and it's I don't know. Feels off, feels shady to me. Feels a little shady.
Fair enough, man. No, I mean, I get it. It's because I see the same things that you saw that have you feeling that way. I feel like it was done for legitimate story reasons. The things that are giving you the bad feeling. And I also think that they were well done because I really liked the juxtaposition of the two different decisions made by Amos and Peaches versus by the UN, and showing those play out in opposite directions and the results for the decision maker, I think, really, truly was good storytelling.
I think it will be if the writers like acknowledge how poor Peach's decision was in the next episode. Do you know what I mean? Like if they just kind of like, well, those were the consequences, but none of the characters in that world like acknowledge it, then I don't think it will. It's going to take them to be like, that was, what were you like? Do you see why we should have taken them out? Or like Eric like wants to kill Peaches for like how much all his friends died, like something like that. I think then we'll be like, okay, we're in good hands. But if they don't acknowledge it and they're just like, they just play it like it was a sequence that had to happen, then I think that's more evidence that this is going in a weird direction, because it's that doesn't work if they don't do that,
I mean, if nobody rips into her about getting everybody killed, that's going to be a bad thing. And I will absolutely agree. That has got to be addressed somehow in this next episode, because if it's not, that's, if Amos and Eric don't, what would be a good way to do it? And we'll see what we get next week. But if she tries to assert herself something and they tell her, no, we listened to you and look what happened, right? If
that would be great.
We get just something like that.
Yeah.
That brings us back together to a good place.
Totally. That would be terrific. Like, I feel like it, you see it in lesser, I can't think of any examples, but you see it in like lesser film and television where like the character will do something that just kind of puts so many people in jeopardy or is a terrible decision. And then the show or the thing never acknowledges that happened. They just move on. And, it's just an earmark of shitty writing. So I don't know. We'll see. These guys have given me so much good television. I admire what they do so completely. So I'm not gonna like be like fuck the Expanse, but I mean, I'm gonna say what I feel. Draco, I wanted to ask you, man, because you listened to Ty and that guy, and you said about episode 7 and Naomi's story that there were some intersectional elements about it. Now, like, have you heard anything else? Like, can you contribute what you observed from that, please?
More of that had to do with how they wanted to, at least as far as that episode, they wanted to tell more of her story. And I think that's evidenced exactly by what they were doing. But when they were discussing this with Naomi, they were talking about her portraying these feelings, portraying her broken relationship with her son and attempting to get back to it, portraying her busted relationship with her former, with Marco, with her former relationship. And it was really about talking about the art of her craft, talking about her interest in what she was portraying and what she felt while she was doing it and why she was doing it. So it was supporting the idea of why they wanted to go for the feelings on spaceships thing. They wanted to get, in that episode, they wanted to get deep into Naomi's final failing to touch base with her son and what made her jump ship.
Interesting. I want to say
a question.
Too. Oh, please.
I have a question that goes back to what you were discussing before, because I wanted to know what you felt about this. This leads into the sense of intersectionality in it, because they portray Pastor as they go full in on the idea of him being a weak leader while also being a male in this role. While he says the right things, he says the things that support, I understand where you're coming from, Avasarala, but then he immediately listens to his dog. He listens to, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that mean in a mean term, but Delgado is behaving like the attack dog, if you get my drift.
Yeah.
So he immediately says those things. He says the right things, but then Delgado speaks up, and then he listens to them and starts spouting how we must be strong. We must do these things. We must fight back. I wonder what you thought about that.
I really like the idea that he came in like this kind of kind hand, and he was going to be like this kind of even keeled leader. I don't know where this like warmonger side of him is coming from. I don't know where it's coming from, but like, it's interesting. I think like the first president or the first whatever that guy, secretary, like he was great because he did what he was like a buffoon who just kind of did like what the people like kind of want. He was all about his image, so he'd make those kind of vain decisions. And the dude kind of like was like running him, And this guy, I think it's like, while it's similar, it doesn't feel as well fleshed out to me. But it doesn't mean it's bad. It just doesn't seem as vivid. So it's interesting that he's like this kind of nice guy, this kind hand, but then has this military objective in mind and kind of, does some violent things, and now they're going to take out Ceres. But the thing is, like, I don't understand how anyone's being like, yeah, that's a good idea. Like, it makes sense that Avasarala is standing up for it, but I don't know. It just because I guess they did, because they're gonna get rid of him. But that also happened really fast too. Like he I can't think of anyone's name, but the admiral who's like Avasarala's friend, like it almost sounds as Delgado. It almost sounds as if Delgado like Avasarala's throne ascension was like kind of it already happened by the end of the episode. I was like, did that happen
essentially
already?
Very quickly? It was very quick. We didn't see any sort of play by play. someone in the chat might be able to speak this in the book, but essentially she leaves, takes 3 individuals with her, and then in her next scene, she finds out that several more people left, and they want a change of leadership without making it out to be treason, which she is warning them of it being possible of being. And then the next thing is that she's talking to Delgado. It's already happened. Functionally, she is now in charge, and she wants Delgado on her cabinet, but he wants to take out Marvel. Very quick.
Yeah.
It all just seemed a little quick.
Yeah, it's there was Unbeheld has an interesting comment here in the chat, and I think that he's on point, honestly. And he's saying that Pastor is an allegory to 9/11 Bush. It's not that he's a warmonger, but he's feeling that he's being really pressured to do something, bomb something, show they're not weak by catering to the warmonger. And I think, again, because the chat is so amazing. That's just the best part about doing these streams, man.
He is a functional weak leader going where his advisors lead him.
Yeah, but Ascension Dildo called out that the people of Earth want blood, and that in a lot of ways is what's driving Delgado and Pastor in taking his advice directly, right? So I would say the one thing that's off to me about the UN decision making is Delgado going so bloodthirsty. That to me was the only major thing that felt out of character from what I was watching, right? Because we've seen Delgado for a while. It's not like he's brand new. And he didn't have this streak of just nasty vengeance, really, right? That we experienced, particularly in this episode.
Yeah,
he
that's kind of why
have a reason that's explicit.
But that's kind of why I don't like this, because it almost feels like straw manning. It's like, oh, so you want to kill all the Belters? Well, that's bad, and we're going to stand up to that. It's like, well, of course, what? What are these the only options? We can't put together strike teams. We can't put together any kind of there's no other thing, occupying series instead of destroying it. Like, it just feels weird. It just feels like obviously Avasarala needs to stand up to that, but I feel like the intrigue is thin. Usually I feel like it's like, oh, that is a tough spot. What do you do there? Where now it's just kind of like, all right, well, we're going to be mass murderers or not.
God, this comment from Tracy just pisses me off. Not because I'm mad at Tracy, but because of what she's told us. So, all right. She said he's totally unprepared for leadership. There's none of this bullshit in the books. It's unnecessary and stupid, and it's taken the place of the leaders of Mars, Earth, and the Belt trying to meet.
Oh, man.
That would have been so much fucking better. Oh, God, that pisses me off that they didn't do that.
Yeah, when you talk about Gary bringing up the other 2 storylines, Mars is missing. There are Mars plots that are completely gone, and everybody should be handling this, including the main leadership of the OPA on series with
Dawes.
Tracy is screaming at me. There it is, Dawes. With Dawes, where is Dawes' point of view? Where is Dawes' stance in this? We've got one vocal side, and the other 2 corners of the triangle are missing.
Yeah, and it feels small. Like, I felt like even amongst the factions in prior years, there were members of the Belt that were maybe on the gray area. There's always kind of the Fred Johnson, then there was the Dawes, and there was the Millers. There was these kind of variants. There was gray. Now it just feels like there's only one person talking about each particular point of view, and I'm like, I don't know where the complexity of my show went, but it just doesn't feel like it was there. Like I liked it in the beginning of the season. It felt like all these pieces were moving and it was going to congeal, but now it just feels like they're getting closer, but the pieces are just getting smaller and they're not getting any closer to some sort of congruence. I'm like, I don't know. It feels off to me. I don't want to be hyperbolic or anything like that, but I'm like, I don't know.
The off feeling for you, and since you brought it up earlier, I do have a reservation. This is my own frostiness asserting itself. I have a flavor in my mouth, a tingle in my neck that makes me recall Game of Thrones season 7 in what we are having here. And I'm wondering if your own spidey sense, if you will, Matt, if this feels similar to you.
It feels similar in that I feel I'm confused by parts of it where I'm like, it's like something in my subconscious is like activating. It's just like, I know something's off, but I'm not sure what. And
because I think Game of Thrones actually went worse, to be honest, but this,
yeah, for sure.
It doesn't feel as thick. It feels thin. It feels weak. It feels certain plots are just, they don't have enough substance. And I look at this episode was screenwritten by Dan Abraham, Ty Frank, and Naren Shankar. And this is what we got. And I wanted more.
Me too. And Gary says the next book is the one that gets woke, right?
He did say it starts getting a little off the rails.
So,
yeah. And Tracy says you've got a feeling that things are off because it was an oversimplification of the plot from the books, and it pains me to hear book fans who, up until about 2 episodes ago, have largely said the adaptation is one of the best they've ever seen.
We have made that point like a lot in our chats.
And I am starting to hear that. I mean, just look at what Tracy's talking to us about tonight, right? Who has read all of these books and is well aware, unlike Matt and I, of what went through in the novels. And
Unbeheld's comment there is kind of what I was saying at. Honestly, they dumbed down Delgado so he could be contrarian to Avasarala, which is a poor decision for it's like they made him a straw man. They made him someone that's easy to disagree with. Easy, like it's an easy argument to win. And it's kind of what it felt like to me. It's like usually there's gray. Even when who was the villain from season 1? Not Mal, but the other guy, the other politician. Aaron Wright.
God.
Aaron
Wright. Yeah, you're making me stretch back to seasons 1 and 2, man. Yeah.
Even he, even though he was like maniacal by the end of season 2, I still felt like I knew where he was coming from. I still felt like there was like some substance to his argument,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Something feels off. That's all I can really say.
Yeah, it's the thing is that like for the first part of the season, I thought that Delgado and Avasarala were working together while they were playing opposite points. And
that was the basis we got. And that went completely out the window after the attack.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see Tracy's comment there?
Yeah, when they killed Fred, she got worried. Yeah.
I know what that feels like. I know that that's a feeling when you're like, wait, this is a departure. It's a weird example because it's like it's coming from like one of the most woke people on earth. But that show Girls, I don't know if you guys ever watched that. Like Lena Dunham.
No, I never watched that. No.
I mean, I don't know how it would hold up now, but honestly, the first season was amazing because it was just kind of like taking like this kind of woke entitled millennial and like dissecting it and kind of mocking it. It was really funny. And it was just kind of like, then what ended up happening was after that, she started to take herself seriously when it was like the whole point was to not take yourself seriously. And so she just became like the very thing she was parodying. But the end of the season, like it was like 9 episodes, and then like on the 10th episode, out of nowhere, they bring this character back from nothing, and there's a wedding, and they're getting married, and you're like, what the hell? And then everything after that just became a total train wreck. But it's like a departure. It's like something changes, something switches in a way where you're like, that's weird. So like Tracy saying, I got worried. I know what that feels like. And that's kind of what I felt like tonight when I saw the 4 women walk out of the room and then Peaches being the compassionate voice of reason. I'm like, oh no. And then over focusing on Drummer and Naomi. And I'm like, oh no, I don't know. This feels off. Something feels wrong. Something's wrong in the juju.
You know, I just can't let this one slide here, Matt, because from now on, you're going to be introduced as Matt from Foulball Productions, the world's biggest fan of Lena Dunham. That's just going to be from now on. How you get introduced, my friend.
Listen, that was like 2014. Who knew where this was all going? I didn't know it was going to become a insurrection of, you know, culture. I didn't know. I was just like, oh, it seems like a new show. It seems funny. What's that all about?
An erection of culture? Wait, what did I hear?
No, I can actually speak.
Lena
No
Fan
Freudianisms from you.
Lena Fan Productions. Oh no. Oh, no.
Oh, we're not letting you live this one down, my brother.
I don't like her. I'm not a fan. She's a horrible person.
Did you really just compare the Expanse to Lena Dunham's Girls?
No, I was saying what Tracy was trying to say that when I got worried, it's like when you're in with something and then it switches. It's like, I know what that feels like. It was like that happened in Game of Thrones to me at the Battle of the Bastards. Like when what's his name? Jon Snow needed to be rescued by Sansa. I was like, what? What happened? What's going on here? It was like it switched. Something, the air changed, and you couldn't. It was wrong. You didn't know why. You weren't entirely sure. It's like something was off. So that's what I was trying to say.
No, and that's fair. I mean, I get where you're coming from with that. And I'm with Senshin Dildo here as well. I mean, the second half of the season, something does seem to have reduced in quality in comparison to what we got in the first half of this season. But yeah, this is not Game of Thrones level. What the fuck?
Yeah, but how? When?
Not yet.
I was saying, yeah, like the avalanche starts with a pebble. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't look like it until it becomes it. But it's like if you go back and trace back in Game of Thrones, there was signs. We just didn't see them.
So do you want to read your Lena Dunham ship name, or should I do that for you?
The ship Matine.
You are really going to be the guy friend of Matt in this, aren't you, Jake D? You're going to nail him to a cross.
I guess I'm the one coming across like the woke idiot.
Good friends never let their friends live something like this down. That's a rule.
Oh, is that how that's supposed to work? Oh.
Senshin Dildo's point is well met there. S.A. Corey can write though, unlike D&D who are hacks. Yes, I agree. On behalf,
I just wanted a little more writing out of them, along with Nair and Shankar this episode.
I agree.
Yeah, and I mean, Unbehold is not wrong at all in the sense that it seems like we're getting almost like a part 1 and 2, and season 5 is definitely set up.
But his point is not right about the COVID thing, because this was all shot before COVID.
Yes, it was. This was done before COVID hit, and it was in the can, and it was in post-production.
Before we even got season 4, it was done.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Before season 4 came out, season 5 was done being shot.
Do I get why you defend Marco? Yeah, I think, Elvis, in fairness, I think all three of us on the panel are absolutely sympathetic to what the motivations behind what Marco has done were.
Motivations, not methods.
Yes. Which is an important distinction, but I don't think any of us are unsympathetic to Marco's motivations at all.
I mean, he's a controlling asshole, but he's got reasons.
Yeah. And they'll blow 50% of the budget on episode 10 and hope people forget the plot didn't roll. Well, I'll tell you what, if they really did do that, it's going to be one hell of a fucking episode 10.
I don't know. Most of the interesting stuff seems to be going on off the screen. Like we've dropped these two other storylines, but there has been a thread going on that is only mentioned at the beginning of the episode. Do you remember when he was looking in a previous episode at the map of the gate with the 2 UN cruisers and the MCRN destroyer at the gate? And
The big
update
battle.
that he gets that MCRN lost, one UN cruiser destroyed, and the other is fled. And I'm going, that's very specific, considering he was looking at the gate.
Yeah.
He might be getting exactly what he wants at the end of next episode.
Yeah, they really glossed right over that because it's like the first thing that they say. And another thing they did off screen, which I was like, what? Was Clarissa wiping out like 15 guys all by herself. They just, oh, she killed them all. And they're all just laying there dead. It was like, you didn't think we would like to see that?
Yeah, saving money.
To have seen that.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen that.
Well, you actually did see that once already. You saw that in a previous episode. So she jumps out while Amos is in his skivvies, and she takes care of business.
So why include it then? I mean, why even have it? So, we could have just believed that they were all together chasing them down the hallway. We don't have to see
it. It did kind of come out of nowhere that there was another group coming in from another way.
Yeah. It doesn't help anything.
They were fighting that group coming in from the south, and they had to run around the house. And you get the picture from inside where you didn't get to see it. They didn't bother spending the money or deciding that it was necessary. They only just told you in the after, which was, I would have been interested to see a little more of her clicking her switch and her eyes go all wide and she takes care of business. But they have to run around the house from the outside, and they reference from the outside they're attacking us from both sides.
I mean, I'm good either way. Like, I didn't have to see it. Like you said, we already saw it. But then why even show that it happened in the episode at all then? Like, it just seems so weird.
Let you know that they weren't overrun from the south side. Clarissa took care of it.
I think
strategically, she took care of their breach on the south, or I'm choosing south and north, but she took care of their breach on the other side.
I understand that, but the show showed us like 4 people like that were a threat. It was like 4 security guards come and try to shake them down or whatever. Then all of a sudden they have 20, which is fine. Yeah. But like those numbers weren't in play until you showed us that they were in play on the attack. So you could have just as easily showed us the guys from the one angle. It's like, why even include it? It just seemed like unnecessary. And if I'm being cynical, it could be a little more like girls kick ass type stuff.
They left and brought back friends, and that made sure that it was going to be an action-packed moment where they lose a lot of their people defending against the threat that they knew was coming, but Clarissa basically put them back against a wall. And yes, she should pay for that in the future because it played out exactly as the 2 guys who were expecting the churn to grind them up knew was going to come. But should have done something about it, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it just felt weird. It's not like it's a terrible decision. It was just like, why even bother? It just didn't make.
I mean, I took that when I was watching the episode, I took that as an example of showing, shit is happening fast, and they're just having to react. They didn't expect anybody else coming through, so Clarissa had to activate her mods, which takes her out. Right. So you're also dealing with another question of why isn't she using her mods to assist or what have you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because she already burned them. Look, shit was happening so fast all over the place, you don't even know where it's all coming from. That part got taken care of. Although it's fair, like, I would have wanted to see that on screen and not off screen.
Yep.
I could see it. Maybe it was something that they wrote into the script. And they're like, we just don't have the time or money to shoot this, so we're just going to gloss over it. I could see that kind of being a decision that they made. I
mean, that's why I took it out. I'm saying, you could have showed us, but they're saving money.
Yeah, I would buy that. Also a possibility. It's definitely not something I would have wanted to see off screen, though. It would have been better if you got at least a flash of. Like you see somebody trying to breach, maybe Clarissa reacts to it. Maybe you don't even have to show the carnage where she rips the guys apart because you know how she can do that. To you guys' point, we've seen it before. but at least give us an indication that it was happening. That probably would have been a little better.
Seems
they could have done a
like
little
an odd choice.
They could take a director of photography thing. Let's show this in a different way.
Yeah.
I guess, but it just to me it doesn't accomplish anything. Then it's not like the story needed that. It's like it just okay, that happened. I guess. Thanks. It's not like it's not like someone's life was saved by Clarissa, or we knew that there were going to be 25 people attacking this compound. Like it just seems like completely unnecessary. It could have easily just been cut out of the script and nothing would be different.
The story beat is that okay? So you saw 5 guys. You saw 5 guys. If those 5 guys come back, they've got more than enough men to overrun them. They didn't come back with 5 guys. This is what moves that story forward. They come back with 25, and they've got more than enough power to flank them on 2 sides, and they take out.
Yeah, but did we have a complex knowledge of like what the ins and outs were of this place? As far as we know, that one hallway down into the shuttle was the only way in. Like they didn't give us like a schematics of the house and like an Aliens where they have to like lock down this place and lock down that. Like it was never expressed to us. As far as we know, it was one tunnel, one ingress, and it could have just been, even if it was 25 guys, they could have all just been attacking the henchmen outside. Like. There's no reason to include this that makes any kind of story sense.
Yeah. No, I give you that. It's, Dan's comment here. I kind of like this, right? And he said one female that he thought earned her story tonight was Butch. Really liked her presence in this episode. Is Hutch?
Hutch.
Yeah. I was reading the comment, guys. Come on.
I'm helping to correct so that people can look it up later.
Yes, Hutch. Yes, thank you. But yeah, Hutch. I did like Hutch's story too. She was present enough that you knew who it was, and you certainly got a sense out of Hutch that she was a competent operator, right? And I use that phrasing intentionally. Mm-hmm. And I even almost got the sense that Hutch was potentially planning to stay behind to cover their asses getting out. Did you guys get that sort of feeling of what was going on or no?
I'm not sure where that came from because I understood the character's motivation, but I was kind of confused. Like, I kind of thought her and Drummer were on the same page, but I guess she's like concerned about her preservation of the family. They don't want to die if they betray Marco. Wasn't she the one who didn't want to agree with Marco, though, early on? So, like, now they kind of have an opportunity to, like, rescue.
You're talking about Oksana?
Is that her name? Am I thinking of someone different?
Oksana is Carmina's lover aboard the ship.
Who's Hutch then? Sorry.
Hutch was the androgynous woman with Amos.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty cool. That was interesting stuff. Yeah, I liked it. It was cool. I like she got that moment, that kind of like Medal of Honor moment of being like dragged away while she's like blowing.
That was a good scene. I liked that.
That was good, and I like the kind of like brothers in arms vibe of it. Like when he got like took some fire, like she covered him, and vice versa. And then I really liked at the end, like Amos whenever he's on screen, but like he like does a little medical scan. And then like he walks and you're not sure if she's dead. And then he walks and just leaves without her. And you're like, oh, she died.
Yeah, but he also put her down to the ground. So that way the next time they went under thrust, she wouldn't get thrown to the floor.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I was wondering if he was patching her holes, although he didn't get the one in her back.
My impression was that she was dead. But
Tracy says that Butch is the character's name in the books.
Check that out.
How about that?
They actually. That's why I love having our chat.
Love the chat.
Multiple details.
That is actually pretty hysterical. That because she definitely was Butch.
For sure. Yeah, she was pretty cool. I like that whole little crew.
Yeah. Hutch was unsure about starting over. Yeah, because I got the impression she was almost going to cover him so that Amos could get out. But
that was a great line. Oh, sorry. When they're talking about starting over, like that was a great line from Amos about saying like no one really starts over because you always bring your stuff with you or whatever the line was. It's like, ooh, that was insightful. I liked that. That's like that old quote of like, no matter where you go, there you are.
Say Yogi Berra. That's Yogi Berra, isn't it?
It's probably, I don't know. Sounds like something you would say.
That's across the eighth dimension. Correct. Buckaroo Banzai.
Is it?
Remember, wherever there you go, there you are.
It's insightful though. It's a good thing to like remember that, if you just like pack up
Shoot,
and go to
Doomcock just brought that up in a video too.
About what?
The line from Buckaroo Banzai. He was using it in terms of its actual philosophical content.
Yeah.
He was. I think that was with Cameron Pasha.
Oh, cool. He was on Doomcock's channel. I like Cameron a lot.
Cameron's good. I like that guy too, man. So
he's a badass dude. To be a Hollywood writer and be that contrarian to their viewpoints, I respect the hell out of that.
Some guts, man. So we haven't even really talked about Drummer yet. I mean, we're an hour into this. We barely even touched on Drummer. So give me, Draco, give me your thoughts about what went down in Drummer's ship tonight.
Oh, maybe he's switching over.
All right. How about you?
Sorry about that. You go, please.
I caught him by surprise.
How do I feel about Drummer's story? It's tough to watch Drummer be so like restrained, because like in season 3 she was like that, like under Ashford's rule for a while, and you saw like that like eat her up. And how interesting that was, how good, how cool that looked on her, and like then like her explosion eventually. I don't know. She feels kind of agencyless, and it's frustrating to watch. Now, I don't know if that's like a critique of the writing. It's just like an experience watching this show this year. But it's like, damn it! Like I want Drummer to blow someone's fucking head off. Like I like, but I just feel like she's not. I don't know. I want to see her like plotting behind the scenes or something, or making some moves to like get to a goal. Like it just kind of feels like, I don't know. She's just sort of like trapped, and it's frustrating to watch for me.
Yeah. I mean, Mary G says she's waiting for Drummer to explode. Right. And, Elvis is saying she started acting like a child. She already quit politics, went to be a pirate for a living, but come on, grow up, Kamina. And I get that feeling very much. And, Tracy says she needs to end up the pirate queen, but how is she going to get there from here? Right. And what was up with Oksana making her give her gun?
I think she thought that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I didn't like that entire interaction at all. I mean, obviously it was about not killing Carol.
Right.
Clearly.
Oksana
I didn't like that either.
Oksana kind of showed her hand when she was always standing off to the side, and you see in the opposite scenes where Oksana is supporting and helping Karal. She's always there, and they're comparing notes and things like that. When she does this, she is effectively showing kind of like she's throwing in with Karal.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sad, especially since that is Kamina's main touchstone with the crew. It's her first. I mean, she cares for the entire family that she's with, but I think Oksana is hers. Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. I think Elvis's point there is really sums it up, though. Killing Karal was the easy part, but then what? And that does make sense, because that was my instinct too. Is just blow her fucking head off. But then I guess what then? Yeah, that does make sense.
Well, what then? Right? I mean, they're going to meet up with the Rossi, in the season finale. Right. So we know that that's coming.
Yeah, well, they have to. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, so we are going to get a good space battle to watch, hopefully, for this season, because we haven't had any of this.
Better considering how long the Rossi's been fucking hunting bits and pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Sidelined, man. Sidelined.
Yeah, I mean, we did get the cool use of the PDCs to take out that massive amount of missiles that got sent at them. So I mean, we do need to because that was badass.
It was badass, but it was so quick, and there was no stakes. Like I never felt like the Rossi was in any kind of danger. It just kind of felt like a here you go, like throwing us a bone. You know, it was just like, all right, I don't know. Like I love the space.
If you do not spend the effort to create a viable threat, then with the lack of a threat, the wondering, well, are they actually in danger, or no? They blew the missiles away, and then they blew through the tail cone of the ship. So yeah, hey, Rossi, it wasn't heavily staked. That like the fight with the corporate ship.
Yeah, at all. It was just kind of like, oh well, I guess they handled that. All right.
Another day at the office.
Another day at the office. Yeah, just
it's the Rossi. They're badasses, you know. Come on.
I like Tracy's comment here. Also, that BS about do you love us like you love Naomi, like a child. Tracy's going ham on this episode. I like it,
dude. She's not a fan. I can tell.
and like her opinion.
Tracy is telling us how she really feels, and that is a good thing, right? Because the more that we can, get that out, I mean, the more fun it is to have the discussion.
And quite frankly, the weaker, like cultural, indoctrination is. If we're really speaking what we think, then it keeps the thought processes alive, and people don't just passively agree with what they're supposed to agree with. They're thinking for themselves. You might not always be on the money, but at least you're expressing what you believe.
Yeah, and Elvis makes a really fair observation. You've got to have your next steps in line before you take out Carol.
It's a good point.
And so hopefully that's what Oksana was doing, and she was thinking ahead.
But you know what? Like, I think your point is well met, though, because look, man, it has really slowed down this whole season. Like, so much happened in the first half of the season. You had Marco wiping out millions on Earth, and then Holden and the proto molecule and Fred Johnson getting shot. And it was just like, holy shit! Like, we're off and running, and it has really slowed down. I mean, it's just been. Naomi and her Morse code, dude, that was interesting for an episode, but we're still doing this. It's like, hey, all right, I guess, it's like, and the whole cycle of Naomi's character where she has these emotional breakdowns and then these epiphanies. It's like, that's really getting tired. That's getting really tired. Like that kind of mechanic. Like it worked in one episode, but it happened twice already. She's like, and she sees the wire. Oh, it's like, all right.
Yeah. I really liked Naomi's performance in the last episode, but I get that we've sort of really drug this situation out now.
I agree. And considering how high paced everything was before, it's just kind of like, oh, we're I wish we'd get moving. I wish we would just I don't know, it feels bloated. Does that ring does that ring true with anyone else?
Yeah. No, I see what you're going there, and it's, Tracy, you're saying the same thing that Matt was at the start of the stream, right? That it feels like something's changed, and it's not what he's grown to love, and I definitely see, especially the more that we're talking about it. It's like this whole kind of the second half of the season being off from the rest of the show to an extent, right? there's absolutely truth to that perspective, and I don't think that it's wrong.
Yeah, it's weird, and it's like just some of it's kind of creeping up, but like the stuff that really stuck out to me, like I expressed earlier, but some of it now talking about it, I'm like, yeah, wow, we really just are not doing much. You know, it's like Amos's whole journey across the tundra has been going since like episode 4. It's like, oh boy, this is really a whole long side quest. Yeah.
It is taking a while. Yeah, and this is good, and I think you're right. I think this is what we get at the season finale, Elvis. And it's the confrontation between the Rossi and a few of the Free Navy ships, and that's when Drummer's got the opportunity to defect.
Yeah, I don't know.
But you got to kill Carol.
So. Yeah, I hope so. Hopefully brutally.
Yeah, and Dan, since season 6 is going to be the end of this thing, dude, I'm with you 100% on this, brother. If we don't find out what's up with killing the builders, and we don't have the entire crew together on the Rossi, I mean, those two things, if you don't do definitely the second, and I sure as hell hope the first, that is going to be a huge disappointment for this season.
It just occurred to me we may never have the crew of the Rossi together ever again, because Alex and Bobby are on the Razorback or the Screaming Firehawk, and James is on the Rossi. Why would they switch ships in the next episode? And then Alex is out in season 6, so that may never happen again.
Yeah. So, since we are going to get Alex's last episode next week, is it thoughts and speculation on how he leaves the show, or do they somehow do it off camera between seasons? I mean, what are you thinking, Draco?
Not enough time to do anything at the end of an episode that was already in the can. It's going to be next season.
So you're thinking it's going to happen between seasons then, or they're going to somehow do something at the first episode?
Something in the first episode, sign lining or giving the appropriate reason, and only enough effort to move them sideways off of exit stage left.
Fair enough. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, Draco's 100% right that this was all shot before any of that came out, so it can't happen now. And if they said that they didn't bring him back for season 6, I don't think that means they brought him back for one final episode. So they might recast him. They might just flat out recast him, which they did with Arjun between season 3 and 4. Avasarala's husband. They did that. Game of Thrones did it with a few characters, and they just moved right on, and it was weird, but you got used to it. So I don't know. I mean, if he can't come back, I haven't read the book, so I don't know how important he is to the story, but I imagine he is. I would like it if they just recast him. I wouldn't love it, but if it's got to be done, it's got to be done. If they just he lives with his son now on Mars, if they just went that route, it'd be like, I don't know. I'd prefer him to be recast as some sort of relegation of some kind of lame duty or something.
Yeah, so Tracy's hoping that they just sideline him. Maybe have him live with his son on Mars. Then bring him back.
Preferable. We like the character portrayed on the screen. It's going to be a pain in the ass to not be able to see him anymore. I mean, technically, how much have you actually seen him this season? He said a few lines to Bobby each time you get to see the Razorback / Screaming Firehawk. Screaming Firehawk, I mean, technically that's his. He wanted to have the Rossi name Screaming Firehawk. This has been a thread functionally since the beginning of the
early on,
since the acquisition of the Tachi.
But also early on in this season, he actually had some great scenes. He had scenes with Bobby where they were in the in the bar, and then he had a scene with that girl who was working for the general or whatever, the admiral, and he had to kind of he was doing reconnaissance and stuff like that. He actually was pretty instrumental in the early part of this season. That they've just sidelined. They've sidelined everybody except for Naomi.
What happened to the Mars storyline?
Yeah, and Duct Tape says he needs to get through these books to see what Tracy's going on about.
A television series can never amount up to the book that it is based on. A movie can never hope to amount to the book that it is based on. The best you can get is an adaptation that does well with the material, the best you can hope for. I mean, the Lord of the Rings, the movies based on the Lord of the Rings are probably our best case now for an adaptation that took huge amounts of background material and did everything it could, including serious rewriting, to stuff them into the relatively small package of 2 to
Longish
3 hour long
movies,
movies.
Yeah, and every time you bring that up, I'm going to bring up the fact that they got rid of Tom Bombadil
No,
because, God damn it,
Tom
I want
Bombadil.
Tom Bombadil in my
He
Lord of the
doesn't
Rings.
have anything to do with the Journey of the Ring. He doesn't have anything to do with the Journey
I
of the
will
Ring.
never let that go.
He is part of the greater world. He should functionally, you know what? They could fuck with him. They could fuck with him in that frickin'
Yeah, he might
series
be-
because
he
he's
might be
probably
in.
been around that long.
He has been around that long, so they could.
I just know he's been
series.
around through ages of Middle Earth. He would have known stuff like that was going on, and he would have been just skipping through the forest, singing about the trees and things like that, singing part of the Song of Creation for all I know. But
Yeah,
Tracy's point, she says that the Expanse came close until this episode, and I have to agree with that. Like, I read 3 of the books, and like they're really faithful adaptations. They're so faithful, it's almost like reading the books is just kind of like another version of the show. It's not really a whole lot added. So yeah, I don't know. I'm going to trust in Tracy's kind of lack of confidence. You know what I mean? Because it's like, that sounds right. Like that's what it feels like when you feel like you're being betrayed. Like when you feel like you're feeling like what you love is being like kind of fucked with. It's like, I feel like I'm getting that from her. And it's like, I'm getting it from just watching the show myself. So it's like, I'd love to be wrong. I think that'd be great, but I don't know.
Of course,
starting to feel
Elvis
differently.
Elvis has got a beautiful idea here, and I know that this will make Mary G just light off. It's Naomi's going to sacrifice Alex to save herself, and then we'll know that Marco and Carol were right about hers. Yep. See, because I know Mary does. She's not a fan of Naomi.
Naomi has been shit in many cases for a long time.
Yeah, she's.
Unfortunate.
The performance that we got, I really, really liked the performance because you could just feel the pain that she was in. But to Matt's greater point, kind of the past 3 episodes of her arc have just been drug on. I mean, really stretched out, and
she is in Black Pill City.
Yeah, hearing from Tracy that was done at the expense of some very significant greater story arcs, including dealing with Mars, guys like Dawes and the Belt. I mean, that really pisses me off because it's like we got that drug out, way longer than it needed to be points.
Yeah, and she's she's so overwrought, and has been like for 5 episodes. I feel like every single time we see Naomi, she's either crying or fighting really hard on something. It's like there's no break in it, and it's starting to feel indulgent in a way. Not that obviously Dominic Tipper has any impact on like what gets written, but it's just starting to feel like this kind of like, oh, look how hard she's struggling. Look at her feelings. And it's just like, all right, get on with it already.
This, if anything, points right at your feelings that we were discussing in the beginning of this. This is sacrificing. I mean, even if Holden is sidelined, even if we don't get to see Alex and Bobby like this, there's amongst those things are also everything else they could tell us about the greater world as going on, whether or not you're sacrificing that to push other story beats. But I mean, well, she wasn't heavily in this episode, but they went full on into showing as much as I appreciated seeing that sort of story, it's almost like that was the that was the episode where you get to see the one episode where Naomi uses her engineering expertise to survive and do what's necessary to do all that, but at the expense of the entourage, the whole other group of actors and their storylines.
And the expense of the story moving forward. Like, we've had like 3 episodes where very little has changed, from the beginning of the episode to the end. It's, Amos's story is moving still, though it's insignificant. It's just the nuts and bolts of him getting off Earth, but that's not like no impact on the greater story. And, Naomi, like she had episode 7 where nothing got done. And then episode 8 where now it's like she's doing her Morse code thing, which was, I liked, it kind of felt like, are you guys, you know what the concept of a bottle episode is?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like, so it kind of felt like a bottle episode. What's that?
Self-contained, right? Fully.
Yeah, self-contained. Like, and it's almost like
one set, one actor is the ultimate.
Yeah, it's like a great example is the Fly episode on Breaking Bad. Even though it's a terrible episode, it like shows what, it's just like one little problem. And this was like a bottle episode inside of the Expanse, which is pretty bold. It's a pretty interesting depiction, but like, okay, you had the bottle episode, let's get on with it now. And they're just not getting on with it. To me, it just feels like, oh, okay, we're really dragging this out now.
Yeah. So, I mean, Peter Capaldi's Heaven Sent in Doctor Who, another great example of a bottle episode.
Mm-hmm.
Great fucking
also
performance.
I mean, we had more going on, but I felt the time counter moving forward similarly short earlier in the season. Every episode is only so long. It's not ever very long, but the events at the beginning of the season at least did not make you think about it being so short. Mm-hmm. Now we have events in time that it feels like it's the same time, but your perception of the events, now it's like it isn't going very far. Mm-mm. But it has always not been going far. You just had more substance.
I don't know. I just felt like a lot happened in the first few episodes, like just a lot, like, think about all the drama with like the shipping container and then them trying to figure out, and there was like, no, it's a trap, and they had a strike team, and then, like all the robot came in and stole the proto-molecule, and then, another asteroid hit Earth, and the president's dead. Like, just so much was going on, and it was so exciting, and now it just feels like literally nothing's happening. And
we still have no clue what the hell happened to that proto-molecule sample.
No, we don't.
We don't.
I don't.
We don't know if they
destroyed.
successfully got it away.
No, we don't.
I don't believe it was destroyed at all, but we sure as hell don't know where it is.
All we did was we heard about it. They assumed that he had it because he said he did, and because it was still missing. The Holden's crew didn't complete their hunt.
Yeah,
and someone kept pointing out, a few people kept pointing out in the chat when we were talking about that like there was one rocket going in the other direction with like a blue plume. So maybe they got it off, which could be, I don't know, but like to not talk about it for 2 episodes is kind of weird.
It is a little weird, isn't it? I mean, we got it brought up just briefly by Avasarala in this episode where she was talking about Marco. She says, he's got the ships, he's got people, he's got the proto molecule. Right? Or I got the wrong. I don't know. Somebody brought it up tonight. So
I do think she brought it up when she was talking about what a threat he is and that we might lose. Yeah, she mentioned it.
Yeah, I do think it's funny. We got 2 consecutive comments in the chat about the same thing that popped in like at the exact same time, and they're the complete opposite of each other. So Tracy, she was talking about how the performance for Naomi last week was really good. But she followed up by saying we didn't need to see her getting little bits of water this week. And Dan followed that up instantly with, he did love the scene of her using science to get water this week. And so something to point out there is that, of course, people are not all going to have the same reaction to the same type of pieces of the story. So is this dragging poor editing choices, or is it poor writing choices? I mean, what do you think, Draco?
I'm not even certain, because I feel like there could be more. I feel like they could make more decisions, but I think they are deliberately making these certain decisions to. I mean, haven't they already done that? If they've written the book that sidelines Holden, they've already made that decision and they're following through on it. But we are making deliberate decisions to expand Naomi's point of view in each of the episodes. We are making. I mean, when Matt, when you were talking about it in the beginning about your feelings on this, I felt that it was putting so much of a spotlight on Naomi's character in each of the episodes that she was in, because this is what we're more concerned with. This is what is more important about. As far as I was concerned, this is sort of, without wanting to nail them for it, because they have done so much better, and they continue to tell at least a interesting story, they are still highlighting our Naomi character, a character who not everybody cares about. Who has fallen short of expectations, who is not supposed to be the one that we want you to be concerned about her. Doesn't this sound like something that Matt, Jake aren't? We want you to be concerned about this character, this strong female character. Why aren't you concerned about this strong female character that we have presented you for? And
I gotta second that a little bit, because it's like, from a storytelling point of view, what went on that ship could have been accomplished much more efficiently. The only thing dragging it out like that accomplishes is a greater empathy for the character's struggle, which I'm not saying doesn't work. I think last episode it did. I thought it was a tiny bit dragged out, but still I thought it worked overall. But now that they're dragging it out another episode, they're not moving the ball. Combine that with, the girl walkout on Luna, and then, compassionate Clarissa. It's just like, man, this really is starting to just feel like that's a big part of what they want to get across. And it's just like, wow, that's really not what I thought this show was about.
Yeah. And, it's Ascension Dildo says, he doesn't mind that they're giving story to the female character, but they're giving it to the meh character. And Elvis calls out that too much of Naomi resulted with a lower rating, and he's glad that it did, because then they get to experience consequences for what they chose to do. And, I think that one of the things that we've seen very consistently out of the chat tonight, and I think is not an uncommon perspective for viewers and fans of the show, is that at least among the Rossi crew, Naomi is the least favorite of those main characters, right? And I know my girlfriend hates Naomi.
Yeah,
hates her, and I'm not a fan of her. I think if you polled fans of the show, you'd find that she's by far the least favorite of the characters, and so the heavy focus on her, is particularly in the second half, has hurt the show.
I tell you, I never had a problem with. I actually always liked Naomi. I thought, I liked that she was tough. I liked that she was conflicted. I liked the fact that she was, had a strong sense of what was right and wrong, but also had a real deep pride for being a belter and cared about the people involved. So that, maybe sometimes she made decisions that weren't great, but then sometimes she did. She seemed to have a good moral center. When I pulled away from her was in season 4, when she got this new haircut, and it felt like a new energy. And she just felt like she kind of had this sort of a flavoring of a self-righteous blogger. There was just a little more anger in what she was doing. Even when she was doing the right thing, she just seemed a little and it was just oof, I don't know that I like this new Naomi. And I don't think that's there this season, but I just see her just being in pain. And it's just this is the most joyless character on this show.
Yeah. Yeah. Joyless is not an inaccurate way to describe her. She certainly doesn't have the, what's the right word? The positivity or the optimism of a Holden, for example, right?
Yeah, it doesn't get like even Drummer used to get fun moments, like little shit talky moments and stuff. She was always going through a lot of shit, but she got to be kind of sarcastic and fun and a little sassy. It's like feels like that's just gone from Naomi. Like she hasn't smiled in like 3 seasons.
Yeah,
I just
and this
wanted
is
to bring this up.
yeah. So
I
this
just
is
wanted to bring this up because who was that in chat? Because they get the gold star tonight for pointing out something that I missed. I don't know if any of you did, but
I 100%
there's
missed
the
it.
proto-molecule running away.
Yep, I would
Yeah.
say that's got to be it.
I think it was if I recall, because it was a few weeks ago. If I recall, I think it was Buzz Nacho. But I also think it was a few other people. But Buzz Nacho is like he's so sharp with his observations. I feel like it was him.
I missed that, so I wanted to bring it up.
I 100% missed.
I didn't catch that either. So, somebody did mention it. It's way too far back up in the chat for me to find it, but somebody did mention that earlier.
Yeah.
You're right.
Oh, so I mentioned it tonight too.
Brought it up today.
Yeah.
Who gets the gold star of the day?
Whoever it did, raise your hand.
The rest of the chat's gonna be like apple polisher.
Why does my girlfriend hate Naomi? Because she's a selfish, self-absorbed, and just completely sort of insular to only her and her own needs. Like one of the things she
It sounds like you're talking about your girlfriend.
That's my girlfriend. That's my girlfriend. How she sees Naomi, right?
Yeah, I know.
And so
Elvis, you've got good eyes.
So she sees Naomi as somebody who would never give anything up of herself to help anybody else out, right? There's nothing about her that she'll do the right thing sometimes, but only if it serves her own needs.
On Ganymede, or was it Ganymede? Where she was willing to risk her life to save those people. Because remember, she goes out on like outside the airlock and gives her space to that big guy, and the big guy gives her space back. So she has done selfless things.
Fair call out.
Just to be fair.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We should be fair. Absolutely. It's
part of her complex, what should be complex, but she's overloaded to the side that you see more about Mimi I. You know that she's capable of these things, and they do show occasional bits of it, but it doesn't seem to be part of her normal character. So the normal character is, I don't like that so much.
You could argue that this season she's risking her life to save her son. You could argue that. And that's a selfless act.
And yet we got the scene where Marco got to tell him that she left him again tonight.
Yeah, what the fuck is Philip's like motivation? Does he like Naomi or not? I cannot tell. He goes back and forth like every episode.
I mean, do you think he's just conflicted?
I think the writers are conflicted. I don't think they know what
the writers are writing him younger than he is. I think the writers are writing him a little bit younger than he is. Because that moment is for Marco to exert more control over his son, unless his son is actually, I mean, I don't see it. I don't feel it.
I don't feel it either.
Marco is like what he's going to say. She did this. She left us. She is the one who is in the wrong here. So he's saying that, and to me, it's like it doesn't hit. It doesn't emotionally hit. It doesn't feel.
It doesn't make sense. He was more upset that his mom left him than that she was dead. What? Like she was a legit prisoner. Why are you upset she tried to escape? It makes perfect sense. Like it wasn't like she was playing as if everything was going great. Like she tried to kill Marcos like a few episodes ago. All she was doing was rebelling and disagreeing with the whole direction of this thing. And so, yeah, she escaped logically. And then Philip's upset about it. Why? Like, are you happy she's alive? I don't understand what his motivations are. I don't understand him as a character.
Well, if nothing else, I agree with Elvis that Philip definitely hates Naomi now.
Yeah, that's fair.
And Marco, the manipulative gaslighting bastard, made sure of that.
But he was honest. Like, he didn't lie or anything. He was straight up like she tried to escape.
Yeah, but but by characterizing it as her leaving Philip, I mean that's where it's gaslighting, right? And it's manipulative.
Yeah, the control.
I guess
Because she wasn't leaving Philip, she was escaping Marco. And
but Philip's fucking stupid then. Like it's like he doesn't have enough adult agency. Yeah, like
right. He's not adult. He's not as adult that you think this young man should be. He should be more assertive. He should be more questioning of this father figure. I don't know if that has to do with some kind of idea that he's been under control of him. He's been under control of him this long, and that's what they're trying to make is a point.
He looks like he's like 20.
This. Yeah, I would expect a Belter child to be highly assertive of their individuality and making choices that they stand by and not behaving with a certain level of childish response.
Yeah, it doesn't quite make any sense. It's like to not understand why she would want to leave is just plain stupid. You can you know what I mean? It's not like she ran out in the middle of the night and said, we're gonna have a picnic tomorrow, and then he left. Like as she left, it's like, yeah, like you were maybe.
Wait a minute. You're telling me that she didn't go to the gas station for cigarettes, Matt? That's not what happened here.
Dude, they were legit talking about killing her like 2 episodes ago, and he's all like, she left." Like, yeah, dude, her life was at stake. This was her only option. Like, I don't get the motivation or the thinking of the character of Philip, and I don't know where his loyalties lie, and I don't know why. I just don't. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I agree with the statement that he's behaving and sort of being treated like he's a lot younger than he is. It's like a lot of the interactions, and not just his statements and actions, but the way the people around him relate to him. It's more like a 13, 14-year-old. And this kid's nearly 20, for God's sake.
Because I'm wondering if that statement right there, how much weight does that have? That being raised by the sociopath has stunted his emotional growth.
Fair.
Because I don't see it. I feel like, Matt, I feel like this doesn't feel like the payoff. But is that the reason? Is that enough? I don't feel it. I don't.
Yeah, I feel like his emotions should be like relief and disappointment. He should be like, we just didn't get through to her. She's just not going to be one of us. But then, like, well, at least she's alive. Like, it's just his anger that, like, she betrayed us again. It's like, what did you think she was going to do? Why is this shocking revelation? Like, it's just so weird. Like, she's been a adversary of Marco from the jump, and now, yes, she did what the only option she had. He's like, no. It's like, what? Have you been watching her? Have you been here this whole time? I don't.
Hey now.
Childish response.
If she hadn't left them again, we could not have had that cool vacuum jump.
Really?
Which, of course, was a badass scene. So naturally, she's got to leave Philip.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a lot of stuff that's just kind of like, I don't know. It's like a tuning fork that's bent. Just doesn't quite. Sounds kind of like the note, but not quite the note.
Yeah, fair observation, Sentient Dildo. But I mean, okay. I mean, granted, I'm in my 40s. I'm getting old, but I mean, I certainly do remember being 20, and I was. I mean, has it really changed that much in 20 years?
No. And also, like, he's not a 20-year-old in 2021. He's a 20-year-old in 2020. 2,221. You know what I mean? Like, and he grew up in a really tough area. Like, survival and self-reliance is something that he should totally understand. Belters have that ferocious, like that tenacity. They survive where others can't. You know,
Unless
I think-
his father somehow coddled him and it stunned him emotionally. It's the only other. It's the only conceit that I would allow, and I don't even believe that conceit myself.
I guess for me, it's just like, if this was the only issue, okay. It's just we're kind of starting to uncover more and more issues. We're just sort of starting to add up with like, what is the direction of this season right now? Like, what is the soul of it? What's the goal? What's the arc? You know, I thought it was I thought from the beginning I thought it was going to be a lot more crisp, but now I'm starting to really doubt it.
Yeah, I don't know, and it's a fair question to ask, man. I mean, where are they really getting to at this point? I mean, we've got kind of it's sort of about, I guess, 4 major plot points to wrap up next week's episode in terms of what's been on the show, right? So one of them is the proto molecule heading off to wherever it's heading off to. Yeah, Elvis is telling us he thinks that it's linking up with one of the Martian fleet admirals at the ring, which is an absolutely fair guess and probably a decent possibility that's exactly where the fuck it's going. All right, so we got so what's going on with that
there,
right? We also need to resolve Naomi getting out of this trap that she's in, right? And we've quickly got the Razorback approaching her, and the Rossi is heading. The Rossi is heading that. Well, that's the ship that was coming in right at the end.
I know. It's just you say
right?
that, and I'm immediately ringing back to how slow we've proceeded this process.
Well, now finally it's quickly arriving.
Beat by fucking beat.
Yes.
No shit. I mean, Amos has like traversed like most of the eastern
there you
shoreline
go.
on foot, and somehow the Rocinante has like just barely moved anywhere through space.
I know.
Yeah.
So and the Rossi's on its way there too, and it's going to get intercepted by a few of Marco's ships. So everybody's going to meet at. I'm blanking on Naomi's ship's name.
I forgot to, but I know
Chetsmoka.
Yeah.
Right. So everybody's meeting at the Chetsmoka. You got the Rossi coming. You got Drummer coming. Naomi's already there, obviously. In terms of your Rossi crew, and Alex and Bobby are on their way there too. So you got a lot of ships coming together, and then you've also got Amos is presumably going to arrive on Luna at the end of this episode, right? And hitch a ride out to somewhere to hook up with the Rossi.
I guess. Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, how long is that going to take? Is he going to be able to get from Luna to the Rossi? I mean, the way how long it's taken them to get from Tycho to the Chechmoika has been like 3 episodes. How's he going to get to all the way from Luna by the end of the episode? He won't be able to.
Yeah. Yeah. And season 5 has 2 speeds, stop and slow. Bull, probably.
That's funny.
Yeah, and it's just too much focus on Naomi. The Faustian bargain that Marcos made with Mars to gain his free navy should have been a prominent storyline instead of Naomi whining.
Yeah.
Right? We still don't know much of shit about the deal that Marco made with Mars.
And how interesting would that have been to have seen unfold? Like that, like all the shady dealings, the compromised values, the Mars essentially aiding a terrorist by giving the most powerful ships in the solar system. That's fascinating. I would love to have seen that.
Dude, well, like we were talking about earlier, Mars is a character in this show, and it's been just completely absent this season.
100%.
Guys, I want to titillate you guys just a little bit, since we have Tracy Metherell in the chat here. Without spoiling anything, Tracy, are you finding it difficult not to mention some story plot line that is soon to become of this whole Mars storyline? Are you on the edge of your seat, or having any difficulty preventing from dropping these hints? I'm looking for her response now in the chat. Totally.
So Matt, in exchange for me branding you, the world's greatest fan of Lena Dunham, we'll just, I'll give you a little tidbit that you can clip, and because Draco, yes, I'm titillated.
Stuff is supposed to happen, and we're not getting any of it. And I know she's probably wanting to. If I could tell you what is going on, you'd understand.
Yeah, it would be nice. But yeah, hopefully the Mars stuff shows up big time in season 6, because it's this gap. It's like this black hole in the fabric of the universe that's been established of the Expanse. Having just a complete absence of Mars bothers me.
Yeah, me too. And it just seems like a huge missed opportunity for a really interesting story. Like, that was probably the most compelling part about season 4 to me, was Bobby's storyline inside of this sort of decaying Martian, world, and like this organized crime. And I was really hoping that was going to play a part in this new season, and it really is. You're right. It's a gaping hole.
It did, but it's all been off screen.
Yeah. Now we just had those first 2 episodes, and that storyline was completely dropped.
Abandoned.
Once they found where the ships went as far as it relates to our storyline in the current series. They haven't gone any further down that road.
Yeah. And this is cool news from Reynard. They start shooting season 6 tomorrow.
That's pretty interesting.
So the question is Cass Anvar on set to die? Right.
I would love to know.
Or have they recast Alex?
Or are they simply going to use some imagery, or just
deep fake him?
Character? I don't know. Would they actually go that far? Do they feel it's necessary? No. I mean, they feel like they're going to get a satisfactory ending to this show in the 6th season. They have said that on the Tie and That Guy. And knowing about a few things that have not been addressed this season, the most obvious one is everybody wants to know about what happened to the builders and those orange rings that they found, and what Holden sees when he passes through the gate.
For Christ's sake.
Nothing.
Why did they even mention that
this season? It hasn't even been mentioned.
Yeah. Why did they even bring that up? Like, it was, I thought we were going to go there. I thought maybe it would be like, like they were planting the seeds. Like, remember this from early on? And it's like nothing. It's just, I've been saying that for a little while. It's like, why are the gates and the gate worlds not a bigger part of all this? It's just so bizarre that, like, we have access to all these places in the solar system. We're just not talking about it. It's like, why?
Worlds.
There's a problem with your question, Tracy. The problem is that Cass needed it to be blown, and that's why we lost. Dumbass.
Yeah. Fucking idiot.
How many of those guys in Matt, you're in the industry. You know about how much of the population is that, on both sides of the, or on all the multiple sides of the gender, whatever you want to call it. About how much of the population is that in percentage that think that they got to get their shit taken care of?
You mean like how many don't have boundaries when it comes to sexual pursuits?
Yeah, kind of like that.
It's a tough question, to be completely honest, because it's like, I honestly feel like as dudes, like, we don't really see it. Because I've talked to girls that I like, that like, about guys that I'm like, I'm cool with, and they would tell me behavior that they did. I'm like, that guy did that? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. It's really hard for me to say because I don't see it.
You don't even see it.
Yeah, I like to believe that most guys are good, but you hear about this type of shit. So I honestly, I don't have an answer for that kind of a question, because you only know about it once it comes out, because it's all done behind closed doors.
Jeez. So they're still keeping it.
It's tough to say.
Keeping it between the sheets.
Or
I'm not a
couch cushion
player. Like, I'm not going to parties with A-list. I wouldn't know.
I was wondering if it was obvious enough that on many subtle levels, because I mean, we have there are other people from LA and other people in the business like Paulie and his wife, specifically his wife, who they would have their own opinions on it, because not everybody in the business is in all of the little circles. And
Right.
I'm not assuming that you are. I'm just wondering if you had an opinion, specifically asking that question, like, did you have an idea of it, or is it, I mean, a guy like Cass Anvar, do you run into guys and maybe girls like that on the occasion that they're just, it's all out there and it's obvious they're looking for it on the 24/7?
Well, like,
Something like that.
it's almost like in Hollywood, it's almost like this kind of weird, like, BDSM relationship. Like, there's these people, like, it's all status and money. Like, that's what kind of motivates the town. And so, like, the women are signing up for that. Like, that's kind of like that's like they're kind of looking for it. They're like trolling, and the guys are kind of looking for them. And it's like this kind of like unspoken, like, relationship that's there all the time. So, I can't speak to that too highly because I'm not on either end of it. I'm not the guy with the money or the pretty girl who wants to, you know what I mean? But I definitely see that that's how it exists, like in Hollywood, 100%. I will say that the creepiest people I know always present themselves as the exact opposite. Like, I know a kid who was a male feminist, and he creeped out my roommate something fierce. She's a woman, and like, she told me after like this Halloween party that he was just following her around like the whole time. And he was totally say all the woke stuff, and he would apologize for being white, and and he he's a total creep. So, and I've seen that more than once. So I guess that's the best thing that I could observe from like firsthand point of view is like, the people who act like they're the most virtuous often have a lot to hide.
Fair enough, man.
Thanks for providing that.
So we've
Thank
been
you for
rolling
your opinion.
for almost.
Thank you for your candor.
We've been rolling for almost 2 hours now, guys. So I want to get wrapping up, but I want to hear final thoughts on tonight and what you're expecting out of next week, Matt.
Well, all right. Let me pop the cam on. I kept the cam off because it was lagging super hard, and I just wanted to make sure it was.
Well, and our buddy 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser did beg you to show that beard.
There you go, Nick.
You got all of it.
I think I've had my criticisms with this season. I've not hid them. But I do respect mightily the writers and the showrunner of this show. And I think even with my concerns, I do genuinely believe that the last episode will be something pretty badass and epic and fun, and will be high stakes. A lot of it's kind of built on shaky ground as we're sort of exploring here, but I do think it will be entertaining, if nothing else. I don't know if it's going to pay off in all the ways we want it to. I do think it's going to be pretty fun. Real quick, I did just want to share something that I think a lot of the chat can appreciate. In this Airbnb that I'm staying in, there's like all these kind of welcome to Austin guides and like, beer tours and stuff like that. And then this one was just sitting here on the top, and it's the Austin Beer Guide. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's Luke hanging upside down. But if you see, like, he's going for a beer bottle.
He's going for the beer
instead of a lightsaber. And I just felt like everyone in the chat would appreciate that.
That's great, man. I love it.
That's great.
Draco, final thoughts on tonight. What do you think we're seeing next week?
Reach out with the Force, Luke. We are going to get some closure for this season, and we are going to drop mysteries that have to be closed in the next season. The thing is that in the same vein of what we've seen so far, I'm hoping it's a callback to the way that the story was filled with events as we were talking earlier in the stream, that actually make us feel that all of the bottle episode, the showing and telling and not showing that we've seen recently pays off in that final episode as a function of what we've been waiting for, and that we are ready to wait a whole year or however long it's going to be with this start of production in the Coof season for season 6 to come out, and hopefully put a pin in it, even though I'm hoping against hope that they don't need to, and they see that before the end, and they don't have to do a 4th season Babylon 5 to close out this thing earlier than it has to be. I want more good, and I want them to tell more stories. I want them to be more broad. I want them to not have to focus on any one member of their cast to the exclusion of others. But yeah, I'm hoping for a good closure and a lead into the mysteries that we're going to see in season 6.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. So, tonight's episode, I enjoyed the action that we got on Earth. I liked what I thought was a well-done juxtaposition of differing consequences that both turned out poorly for completely different approaches to conflict, which personally, I found that just literarily poetic, and I liked that. I know you hated it, Matt, but I liked that.
I didn't hate it. I'm concerned with how it's going to be handled. That's all. I just feel like I said, we talked about it. If they handle it like it was a blunder, then I respect it. If they just move on and they don't address it, then no.
Fair enough. Yeah. So I liked that. What I was seeing out in the belt tonight, though, from that section of the episode was really meh for me tonight. So what we need next week for the season finale is we need a lot of pop. Like, we need a lot of pop for the season finale. Obviously, Marco's not dying next week. But we need a lot of action. We need a lot of pop, and we need a lot of reuniting of the Rossi crew. I mean, the only person who realistically probably can't be reunited with him is going to be Amos, of course. But that's got to happen, realistically in episode 1 of season 6, because if it doesn't, there's a big fucking problem there. So that's what I'm expecting and what I need out of next week's episode, man. So, all right, I think that is pretty much it for tonight, y'all. So, Matt, before we go, plug your channel, anything coming up on for you in the next week or so.
Yes, absolutely. Real quick, Light M. I am over what has come from Star Wars since, but I will always be a lifelong fan of the original 3 films. I will take that to my grave. They're some of my favorite movies of all time. I adore them. I started a new show that I just did impromptu last week. Vigilante Williamson was on there, U.S. Dutch Kitty, and Just Another Red Shirt. It's called the MF or Cocktail Hour. It's going to start on 8 o'clock Pacific time. It's going to be a follow-up. It's going to be not a design, but it will start after Friday Night Tights ends around 8 p.m. So come check us out, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff. And if you haven't been to my channel, talk a lot of Expanse, but I talk a lot of other popular media. I got some new ideas, interesting stuff coming out of the channel. So give me a subski. I'll try to make it worth your while.
Outstanding. Excellent. And then now next week, we'll be doing this for the season finale over on your show. So if you have not subscribed to Foulball Productions, don't forget that this, night of, live couple of hour review of The Expanse is going to be on Matt's channel next week. So remember to tune in, be 9:30 Central, 7:30 Pacific, just like we were tonight. Yeah. Draco, anything that you want to plug for your channel? Anything you got coming up, my friend?
Oh, only that I I guess I should apologize for last week. If anyone was following my channel, I didn't get to complete the tease on time, so it got strung out. I am planning on working on one tonight, so that should be turned in before I'm completely dead to the world this morning. But other than that, I mean, thank you again, Jake D, for inviting me on your stream to talk about the Expanse. Hopefully still the best the best programming you can get on television. Thank you, Matt, for also being on the stream. So one of the most involved new guys to talk about the Expanse, to care about it, and to bring your own opinions. I mean, it's great having you guys to talk about with us. So. Yes,
all right.
Please like, share, and subscribe to Jake D, to Foulball Productions, and I wouldn't mind one myself. Feel so inclined.
Fair enough. Well, thank
Draco Argenteus.
everybody for sticking with us tonight. We had well over 20 viewers for almost the entire 2-hour stream, which is a phenomenal show for the night. Thank you so much. If you have stuck around this long, please, I hope we've earned your like on the video and maybe a sub for the channels. Definitely catch us coming up later. I will have yet another god-awful, horrible review of The Stand on Thursday evening. and certainly catch Howlin' About Entertainment Sunday evenings at 5:15 Central Time right here on the Jake D channel. Thank you, everybody.
How much more Stand pain is there left? Oh, I'm sorry.
We still got 3 more episodes of ungodly pain with The Stand coming up. I'll figure it out somehow. All right. Everybody have a good evening. Thank you for being here. We'll catch you on the next